Okay, today we're going to talk about perspective. And we're going to start with simple one-point perspective. And perspective is one of those more scientific aspects of drawing, where drawing has been so analyzed over time, and certain aspects of it are rather scientific in their approach. If you recall ever having seen the hieroglyphics on the pyramids in Egypt, all the people are, kind of flat. There's no sense of depth. It really came about in the early Renaissance, and especially artists like Da Vinci really delved into perspective, where most art and paintings were created indoors. And it wasn't until, well, there's that thing again. I don't know what's flying around, but stay away from me. Go up where the lights are. It wasn't until really the Impressionists 150 years ago started actually painting outdoors. That was considered a radical idea. And when you are outdoors, to try and capture the depth of field, like if you're in a landscape and you're looking through a valley, or if you're in a city and you're looking down city streets, how do you take a three-dimensional experience and convey it on a two-dimensional surface while still trying to bring a sense of depth to it? So this is where they really started analyzing perspective and how to achieve it. If you ever saw or see again once a painting of Da Vinci's The Last Supper, where all the apostles are on each side of Jesus. Jesus is in the dead center, and the whole perspective of the room is constructed where he is the center of attention in the middle of the painting. And how that is achieved is through simple one-point perspective. Now, years ago, and it wasn't that often, not that far long ago, it was very popular during the 60s and 70s, I believe, the Prince of M.C. Escher, who was a master at manipulating perspective. And I want to share with you, if you're not entirely familiar with his work, I'm going to put up this piece of artwork, one of his etchings and drawings, where you look at this, some of the staircases look like they're going up, some are looking down. Whoa, I'm shutting the door. That thing just went in the other room. It looks like a wasp or something. I want no part of that. Yeah, some of the staircases are going up, some are going down. It really warps your mind as to what end is up here. His work to this day is still very popular, but he was able to really understand perspective and bend it and manipulate it, where our brains are scrambling, trying to make sense of his imagery. Whereas, let me stop this sharing. When I talk about simple one-point perspective, I'm talking about a scene like this. I did not have a picture of the Last Supper, but where is this one I just put up there? Are you seeing what I'm saying? Let me see. No, not that one. I'm looking for a particular. Okay, let me stop this share. All right, let me try this other one. Okay, this is the one I'm looking for. This. Are you seeing a bedroom scene? Oh, here it is. Yeah, here it is.
Yeah,
okay, I lost it for a minute. Okay. This is simple 1-point perspective that I'm going to teach you about today, that you will be able to take and sketch rooms in your house. But the easiest way to start is by, where'd this one go? This is the one I want. Not that one. Oh, come on now, Katie. This is the one. Okay. This is simple 1-point perspective. And if you've ever stood in the middle of a street or in the middle of railroad tracks, which is kind of risky, but you would see that your mind knows that these parallel tracks are receding into the distance, and they're not getting closer together like we have displayed them here. We know they're going to stay parallel unto infinity, or until the end of the line. So this is what we're going to create, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So let me stop the screen share so I can start showing you on my easel. 1-point perspective, like all perspective, starts with a horizon line. And the horizon line is, and you can draw one, it's a horizontal line. We're going to practice here. It's a horizontal line. This is where the earth meets the sky, the horizon, and this is the horizon line. On this horizon line is what we call the vanishing point. And that's where our parallel lines are going to converge. So if we're drawing railroad tracks, they would come from that point and they would kind of like radiate out like 2 radii. And even though we know this street or this road goes on forever, the road is not getting narrower, but we're trying to convey through artistic and scientific analysis the illusion of how things recede and how we gain perspective as to gaining depth and volume on something. So our railroad tracks, the ties, the ones that, and if I was, meticulous, I would do this mathematically, but I'm eyeballing this for you to show you. Your railroad ties, the ones closest to you, are going to have the most gap or space between the ties. As they recede into the distance, the lines, the horizontal lines depicting the tie. Shoot, how'd you get back in here? Oh man, I don't want to be going on in here while I'm trying to teach, especially since I'm allergic and my EpiPen is in my handbag. Anyway, the lines as they shoot, now I'm getting mad. No, buddy, get away from me. This is horrible. This has never happened before. All right, I'm gonna have to wave him away with my ruler. I mean, I'm not wearing any perfume or anything. Okay. As the lines recede into the distance, they are going to get closer together, to give you the illusion that something is moving away from you. Even though in real life, the railroad, darn it. Oh, shoot, that guy is big. I got it. Oh, I know what he wants that. Oh, man. Okay. This is terrible. Get away
Do you have someone who can help you? Is your husband home?
No, nobody's home.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry.
I hope he just stays up by the lights, but he keeps coming over this way. I think he likes, you know what, I'm going to turn the lights off that are by my computer monitor. All right, so it's a little more shadow on me. but at least he's not coming towards the light that's right near my
Yeah.
crazy town. All right. So the lines of the railroad ties are going to get closer together. Jesus, get away from me, buddy. As they go into the distance. And even if you imagine this as a staircase, the risers would also be getting closer and closer and closer and closer and closer and closer as they recede into the distance. So now you're getting an idea of how to convey three-dimensionality on a two-dimensional surface. So now next to this, this railroad, we also have poles, you know, like let's say a fence. So I'm going to make a light colored line. Damn it, get away. I'm sorry. Wait
So
a minute.
I have another idea, Katie. Why don't you get some honey and put it in a dish and put it clear across the room?
That's not a bad idea.
And then get something to trap it, like a bowl, if it goes to
I
the
don't
honey.
know about that, but I do have money. Oh, this is terrible. I'm sorry. Okay, honey on the dish, over by the windowsill, go way over there and do not bother me anymore. Okay. Okay, so let's say that we have a fence. Our fence is also going to emanate or start from where our vanishing point is. So everything that's going to, now everything's making me jump. Everything, whether it's a fence or a tree line, is going, oh, he just went in the other room again. I keep shutting the door, but he finds his way back. Unless he has a friend in here, and then I'll be really annoyed. Okay, everything is going to emanate from our vanishing point, which is a little dot on the horizon. So I'm going to put two lines to try and kind of convey a fence post. So I'm going to use my marker again. And that's going to be the top of the fence railing. And this one's going to be the bottom of the fence railing. Now, everything that goes on that is vertical is going to stay vertical. It's not going to bend like these radiating lines from the horizon line. So my fence posts, again, like my railroad ties, they are going to get closer together as they recede into the distance, where they just might become one indistinguishable kind of blackened blur over there as it recedes into the sunset. Now, if, oh, geez, he's back. How do you manage that? I can't take it. Go find that honey. It's over there. Okay, if you were to have like really tall telephone poles, because this fence is, you know, kind of low, our telephone poles might come out, if they're really tall, they might come up this way because they're really high up in the sky. And the poles, I'm just going to kind of try and freehand this for you. The poles are going, and the line that the poles will follow where they go in the ground will also line up with one of these radiant lines. So all of this, you don't have to eyeball. You just need to use your ruler. Well, you can eyeball it. I'm sure there's a mathematical equation for if it's receding into the distance, you put them so, you deduct so much between each one. I'm not about the math as much as I am about the eyeballing of it all. And I know that I want these to become closer together as they go into the distance. So everything goes back to your vanishing point. So if you were to have, let's say, an elevated subway line, that would be above the horizon line. We're going to make it like the High Line in Manhattan, where it's going to come above our heads. And that's all from our vanishing point. Everything comes from the vanishing point. And again, the further away it is, let me give a good tip on this marker. I need a better marker. Oh, I think you found the honey. I hope you did. Everything. Yeah,
He found it.
I hope so.
Just put something big over the whole thing. It's a bee and some honey. It's not gonna.
Oh, he's right in front of me. He did not find the honey. I don't know what this thing is, but it's driving me crazy and it's chasing me. Oh man, this is annoying. All right. This is a first in my teaching where this has happened. Now I got the spray. Oh. All right. You know what? He's back there. He's flying all around my house, but he manages to come back in here. I'm sorry. All right. So my overhead is the same thing. The lines that are coming closest to me are wider than the lines that are receding. Now, if I were to have, and this takes you all the way back to the horizon line. Sometimes like that bedroom scene, I want to pull out a piece of paper here. Yeah, well, this will work. I'm just going to show you how I'm going to take a piece of paper and put a black edge around it so I can show you how you don't always have to show where your vanishing point is. That sometimes what's happening here, we don't see where the vanishing point is because there's a wall. Oh, he's back. I can't believe this whole thing. This is the craziest thing. Get away from me. I've got the raid, and I'm not afraid to use it, but he's getting too close for comfort. Okay, there he is. Oh, I squirted him. I squirted him. Don't squirt your computer, Katie. All right, I just don't want to make him mad. I just want to make him dead. Oh, so I got like raid all over my desk, but I hope that slows him down. My heart is racing. All right, so this is what happens if we have a wall. I'm going to go back and show, my monitor is dripping with raid. I want to go back and show you the bedroom. Because see, you don't see in the bedroom where the vanishing point is, beyond the window. You're seeing the window as that wall that comes up. So if you're drawing a room, flip to a new page. If you're drawing a room, like this room, you're not seeing your vanishing point because there's a wall there. That's our bedroom wall. So I'm going to take this off. I'm going to hit my stop share. That's my wall. My vanishing point is beyond there. It's like it's back there. So where my bedroom wall is coming out, we're seeing this part of it. We're not seeing out the window, through the backyard, through the trees, but this is our room. So we're getting the feeling that these are our walls and this is our ceiling and this is our floor because we have created angles. I know when I was about 8 years old, I come from a family of artists and my older brother is a wonderful artist. He fascinated me. The first time he showed me how to draw a box in perspective and I couldn't stop drawing them. You take one square and then in the middle of that square, you start drawing another square. And then I would just attach the corners with straight lines. I thought it was genius. It's like he opened up a whole world to me on perspective, because normally if I was drawing, like a young child would draw a house, it would be, straight on. You don't get the sense that the house has any depth. But if you take that house and turn it 45 degrees, now you see you've got angles. And everything in perspective, your verticals will always stay vertical. So there's my little door. Now, on the windows, our verticals are verticals, but our lines to the top of the window and the bottom of the windowsill are going to follow the same angle as the roof and the ground line. So whatever this angle is, your windows are going to follow that same line. And just like the idea of the railroad ties, the lines getting closer together as they recede, same thing happens with windows. If, let's say my wall here, if I have windows, the windows and my angular lines stay the same angle. The windows that are getting closer to me are wider. I made that. If I fill it in, maybe it'll give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, it's going to be night outside these windows to show you what I mean. So the windows, again, we're going to keep that same line there and same line up there. And the windows, as they get closer to me, are becoming wider. And even though we know in real life, the windows are all the same size, we get an idea that they're receding into space. And this is all an optical illusion, just like all drawing is an illusion. But we want to suggest the object in space and how it occupies that space. Another aspect of drawing in perspective is what we call foreshortening. And drawing in terms of foreshortening means there's a certain amount of distortion involved in drawing. And this is what, when I mentioned earlier that you might want to draw something upside down to remove from your brain what it should look like. Because sometimes what we think it should look like gets in the way of our being able to capture it. What was my train of thought there? Still thinking about that stupid bee. Yeah, oh, okay, our windows getting closer together. Oh, foreshortening, that's what it was. Foreshortening is when something is flat, like when I hold my arm out like this is like a flat image that my arm is out, my arm is out to the side. And if you were to draw me right now, a contour drawing, the line would come around here and it would go straight out and you would get the hand and whatever. But when I take my hand and I bring it around this way, now this area is what we call the foreshortened area, because you know that if my hand is next to my head, maybe the distance from my chin to the top, my finger is like maybe from here to here, my eyebrows. But when I bring this forward in space, all of a sudden my hand is much larger than my head. And to capture that drawing is called foreshortening. So what I would do, and I got to be able to see it if I can see this and draw this, because it's all about, can I see it? Okay, so if I was to draw this in perspective, I've got a head back here that's attached to like an arm and a body or whatever. But then you have this big like hand, and if the hand is like way up here, and I'm getting crazy with this now, and how this arm is way shorter than my head. You know that my arm is much longer, but in the foreshortening of it all, it's now much shorter than it appears. And then I've got this big hand over here. But this is called foreshortening. That is also, and I'll send a handout on that because that's like a whole lesson in by itself. But what I want to cover is perspective, because to have this tool of knowing where your horizon line is and where your vanishing point is, because like I said, you might not be able to see your vanishing point. So we just talked about now a 1 point perspective. Like if you were standing in the middle of the railroad tracks or in the middle of Park Avenue, and it all recedes to a vanishing point on the horizon. But now I want to take you to the next step and show you this one. This is considered 2 point perspective. This is where you've got 2 vanishing points. This would be where if you were standing at the corner of a building on a street corner, and you're looking down 2 streets at the same time, or looking at 2 sides of the building, you would have 2 vanishing points. This is 2 point perspective. I haven't seen that critter, so I hope I zapped him good with those chemicals that I'm now ingesting. So that wasn't such a great idea, but at least he's not bothering me. So now I've got 2 vanishing points where I'm going to do a building, where my building is going to emanate from. And I'll take off the stop screen. And please draw along with me. If not, you'll know you'll get the video, and then you can put this light back on. Yeah, I think that's a little better. Okay. So everything's going to emanate from these vanishing points. So if I have a building, and I'm not going to be standing, I'm not going to make a dead center. I'm going to make my corner a little askew. So I'm now, maybe that's a little too much. So I made that line a little too long. So I'm just going to cover that up so it doesn't confuse us. There, so just covered that boo-boo up. And now my building is going, and all of our vertical lines are going to stay vertical. And the vertical line does not, but I think they call it a plumb line. Now this building is going way back in space. This is more like a diamond. So most buildings would get cut off like here and here, because this is not the building that goes on forever and ever. So this is the shape of my building. Looking at it, and the lighter, the thinner lines are my guidelines that helped me establish where it is in space. So if I were to have windows here, like I did before, the windows that are way back, and the line of the windows follows the same line at the top of the bottom, the windows are going to get wider as they come forward to me. Like that. So I'll fill them in to make them more. And I could have used a ruler, but I didn't. And there are many other perspective exercises that we can do. If I wanted to have like short windows, I would still follow that line like this way and this way. It would still follow the line to the horizon line. You would still just be moving your ruler, because everything would emanate like a radius from that vanishing point. And that will help give you a sense of perspective. Now, when we deal with circular shapes, paper. Right here. So I'm going to cut a circle with a piece of paper to show you. The same kind of foreshortening and distortion happens. Well, this isn't exactly a perfect circle by any means. Oh, because it was two pieces of paper. But when we look at a circle dead on, it's a circle. When we turn that circle in space, it now changes into more of an oval or an ellipse, an elliptical shape, which comes into play, is helpful for you if you do flowers. And if you're doing a straight on like sunflower or daisy, your flower, you do something like that. But not all flowers are looking at you full face. Some of the flowers are tilting towards the sun. If it's tilting up towards the sun, then the face, it might be more elliptical. And then your petals behind would be further or be smaller than the ones towards you, because what is behind is smaller. The things that are in front are larger. So I would play with circles as well. I would get a flower, like I would keep it simple, like a sunflower, a daisy, sometimes roses, we get all because roses are so twirly. They have all kinds of, and peonies and ranunculus, they have all these swirly things, but those are also fun to draw in different angles. And I have a worksheet for flowers too, fun and easy flowers that start with simple shapes, whether it's, something like that you're building on. But we can get back into the florals as well. But in terms of perspective, I'm gonna let it lay with 1 point perspective and 2 point perspective today. If you want to play with that at home, I would say, sit yourself down. I could sit here and look at the back of my studio where, so you see a corner back here. So that's where all my lines, and you can see it here now with my windows. The windows, as they recede, they're getting smaller and they're all following this line. They're, the top of the window is being tilted this, following the roof line. And the bottom of the window pane is following that line that recedes back to that vanishing point that's way outside the window. All my vertical lines stay vertical. The 2 windows back there are facing us, so they don't have distortion. They're just dead on rectangles. But in order to convey this side wall here where I have, and these windows here are the same size as the windows back there. But because these are closer, they look much bigger. So that's how we capture the perspective. And you can practice that in your own home by just following, getting a ruler and trying to see where those lines converge, where they've got to be like way out there somewhere, and the roof is it's like a block away is where my vanishing point is going to be. So what I'm going to do now is unmute you and see if you have any questions, because I have plenty of reinforcing attachments with perspective exercises for you to do at home. I know the first time I took a class in perspective, the mechanics of it all kind of made my eyes glaze over. When I always knew I was going to be an artist, but when I was in high school, I was the only girl who was taking a mechanical drawing class with all the boys, the tech mech boys down in the dungeon in the basement of my high school, where they had auto body shop and all that stuff that the boys who weren't going to college were down in the dungeon learning how to be auto mechanics and plumbers, and now they're like the richest people. But anyway, I was the only girl in my mechanical drawing class, and the teacher made me stay be in the back row, so I would, I guess, not be a distraction. But when they started talking about perspective, and this was real mechanical drawing, and my father was an engineer for IBM, so I was familiar with some of this stuff, but I didn't realize how scientific it was. And it kind of threw me, and it kind of scared me, and it kind of turned me off, because I was still in that head where, oh, I'm an artist, everything is intuitive and I'm just so creative. And I didn't really grasp the fact that there's so much science behind art making and drawing, and grasping how to capture imagery on a two-dimensional surface. So learning perspective was just not a one bite thing for me, a one and done. I had to keep working at it. I had to keep revisiting it with my eyes and my brain, and just not my hand making all these angles and moving. You know, I had a T-square and I had triangles and all this stuff that you needed for mechanical drawing. I'm glad I learned it. It really helped me develop how to capture perspective, but it's not a one and done thing. You got to stay with it. I start with 1 point perspective, then go to 2 point perspective. There is 3 and 4 point perspective, but then you're getting like MC Escher and you'll make yourself nuts. But you have to understand 1 point perspective before you can sink your teeth into 2 point perspective. So you asked for it, you got it. We covered perspective today. Are there any questions? Okay.
I would love to get the flower one, like you said. That sounds great.
Okay, good. I'm going to send it, because if this was like a 10-week course, I would devote a whole session to florals. Or these are line florals, you know, doing them with lines and step 1, step 2, step 3. That's fun. But that's not something I want to devote the whole lesson to. That's more like a little aside. Like this, it'll be an aside for today. So I'm going to make a note that week 2 was perspective, and I'm going to send you the florals and foreshortening, because that's also something that takes some practice to wrap your head around.
Yep.
Like I said in our very first lesson, drawing is just not handwork. That can be like doodling, mindless doodling. When you want to capture an image on paper, it really takes a lot of brain power. Our eyes are our guide, but getting our brain to tell our hand what to do is our challenge, and it comes with practice. So I encourage you to keep drawing, keep doing your exercises every day, you know, whether you're having like a morning cup of coffee, and when you're done with the crossword puzzle, take out a fresh piece of paper and use your pencil to draw your coffee mug, or to draw the newspaper or anything. Just keep drawing and you'll get better at it. You'll get better at it. Any more questions? Okay.
Thanks so much, Katie.
Thank you. And you'll be getting my my email with the exercises and the handouts and the recordings either later today or tomorrow.
Fabulous.
Thank you for your time. Have a good week.
You too.